In Africa, the king and queen of a village, I hear, are the most respected and maybe feared in some cases. But the griot is the most revered because a griot is a storyteller. And in the stories lie the history of a village. In the stories lie the history of a culture. Storytelling is important. And yet I think we forget to tell stories of our lineage and our life to our children. When I was your age, my favorite thing to do was to ride my bike for hours. I love riding my bike. I had a little green bike with pink tassels coming off the side. And I had a little afro, packed afro, sort of like I have now when my hair is down. And I would ride, and I thought that I was going on long adventures. Before me, my mom, grandma, she's a skater, and she would roller skate. She would roller skate for hours. She's a really great skater. She could backward skate. And my dad, my father has played tennis for almost 50 years. Played some of the best tennis I've ever seen. Oftentimes, on Christmas morning, we would have Christmas dinner on Christmas morning because Daddy and Mom were cooking all night, and it smelled so good. I didn't want to have breakfast. I wanted to have whatever they were cooking. Greens, cornbread, yams. Yeah. It's in the stories. It's in the stories that our children will be invited and introduced into our world. We talk about the divide, the generational divide. Quite honestly, we've played a part in that as well. We congregate amongst ourselves, playing our old school music or listen to our genre of whatever, instead of sharing it with them. Have you ever heard of Earth, Wind, and Fire? Amazing group. Luther Vandross. Oh my God. Now Luther would make you stop doing whatever it is you were doing in the kitchen, cooking, whatever, and just stop and sing. And Barry White, well, let's just say, Barry White had a voice all of his own. Aretha Franklin, one of the greatest singers of our time. In Africa, the king and queen of a village, I hear, are the most respected and maybe feared in some cases. But the griot is the most revered because a griot is a storyteller. And in the stories lie the history of a village. In the stories lie the history of a culture. Storytelling is important. And yet I think we forget to tell stories of our lineage and our life to our children. When I was your age, my favorite thing to do was to ride my bike for hours. I love riding my bike. I had a little green bike with pink tassels coming off the side. And I had a little afro, packed afro, sort of like I have now when my hair is down. And I would ride, and I thought that I was going on long adventures. Before me, my mom, grandma, she's a skater, and she would roller skate. She would roller skate for hours. She's a really great skater. She could backward skate. And my dad, my father has played tennis for almost 50 years. Played some of the best tennis I've ever seen. Oftentimes, on Christmas morning, we would have Christmas dinner on Christmas morning because Daddy and Mom were cooking all night, and it smelled so good. I didn't want to have breakfast. I wanted to have whatever they were cooking. Greens, cornbread, yams. Yeah. It's in the stories. It's in the stories that our children will be invited and introduced into our world. We talk about the divide, the generational divide. Quite honestly, we've played a part in that as well. We congregate amongst ourselves, playing our old school music or listen to our genre of whatever, instead of sharing it with them. Have you ever heard of Earth, Wind, and Fire? Amazing group. Luther Vandross. Oh my God. Now Luther would make you stop doing whatever it is you were doing in the kitchen, cooking, whatever, and just stop and sing. And Barry White, well, let's just say, Barry White had a voice all of his own. Aretha Franklin, one of the greatest singers of our time. The only way you'll know any of this is that I share it with you. So it's my job to be the storyteller for you. It's your job to be the storyteller for your children and your grandchildren. You are the bridge to all the beautiful things that you know and appreciate. They want to take the ride. You just have to take the time. So,
peace, healing, and light, family. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for showing up today again, and welcome back to another episode of Healing with Angelica's podcast, where we discuss all things healing. And if you are new to the show, again, welcome, beautiful souls. I hope you guys enjoyed the little clip that I played by Lisa Nichols. Such a powerful introduction to today's show, right? So, on today's episode, we have a super cool and awesome guest joining us today. My brother, Knowledge Born Our Lives in the building, as we'll be discussing today's topic, Speak Your Truth, the impact of storytelling. Brother Knowledge, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today. How are you?
Assalamu alaikum to the Healing Mastermind. I'm honored to be here on your platform with you and your guests. I've watched your platform grow and prosper over the years. I'm honored. I got my hand over my heart because I'm on the same platform that our brother Nuri Muhammad was on. You understand what I'm saying? Our brother student minister Ishmael was on. I'm feeling some kind of overwhelmed right now. So definitely honored to be here in this space where the greats come. So to be in that pantheon with so many of the healers, so many of the laborers, so many of the believers, where we get an opportunity to express ourselves and share our story. So honors to you, all praises due to Allah to be in your presence today.
Oh my God, the pleasure is all mine, dear soul. Praise be to Allah. I'm so glad to have you on the show today. Now, Jonathan, for those who may not know who my brother is, you gotta let my audience know who you are. Just let our audience know just a little bit more about you.
Well, I don't think I answered that question in a long time, so okay, I'm thankful for that. Well, I'm Knowledge One Allah, host and founder of Do Knowledge Radio, the award-winning platform dedicated to facilitating stories for our people solely and exclusively. So facilitating. And during my tenure on the planet, and more particular in our community, I found that we sensationalize the degradation of our story, but we never really pay attention to the greatness that exists amongst us until somebody passes away. Then they're like, oh, RIP, blah, 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 this, and this. So the platform is dedicated to sharing the lives and the stories of those who are with us. Even though some of them may have physically transitioned, we honor our ancestors, our elders, our peer group, and our youth. So my brand and I are connected to that opportunity to share and facilitate real stories from our people, not these mixed up, fixed up, amalgamated stories that the outsiders are perpetuating to the world and we're playing out for pennies on the dollar.
Break it down, brother. Praise be to Allah. I love that. Now let's get started on today's episode. Speak Your Truth. the impact of storytelling. And please, for my audience today, do not hesitate to put any questions you may have for our guest, Brother Knowledge Born Allah, in the comment section below, right? So, on this episode, Speak Your Truth, right? The impact of storytelling. We will dive deep into the transformative power of sharing your personal story as storytelling isn't just about words. It's more about connection, healing, and self-discovery. Whether through spoken words or written expression, your story holds the potential to inspire others, shift perspectives, and create lasting change. Join us today as we discover how speaking your truth can not only shape your own life, but also leave a profound impact on those around you, right? Praise be to Allah. All right, and that brings me to my first question for you, Brother Jonathan. Right? Let's get to your story. Let's talk about you. Right? Let's talk about your story. So, how has sharing your personal story helped you connect with others on a deeper level?
Well, my story begins in the space of connection with the birth story. I believe everybody on the planet should know their birth story. Not only their birth story, but their naming story. You know, you make reference to a name that I utilize on Facebook to honor one who was a man child that's amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
He serves as one of my ancestral beacons. You know, may Allah be pleased with Dr. Ava Muhammad. She is, you know, the divine feminine spiritual beacon who operates in the space as a warrior reminder. You know, she dedicated her life and all of her waking breaths to waking us up. You know, so Jonathan Jackson, that name is dedicated to a young man who was only on the planet 17 years, but left a lasting impact in regards to what he was willing to do for his brother. You know, in Islam, we are taught none of you will truly believe until you want for your brother what you want for yourself. So his brother, George Jackson, was a political prisoner and he risked his life to save his brother's life. So that the moniker was an ode to that warrior spirit, you know, going that extra mile, looking to do what's necessary to help my brother and to my sister. So that's a connection to that name, but a connection to the character that exists. So as far as my story begins with my birth. You know, the name at birth, my name at birth that my mother, my father, and I shared was the same name. Al-Mu'min. So Al-Mu'min is one of the 99 attributes of Allah, which means the believer. Look at that. So Al-Mu'min, Muhammad. So at birth, this is the name that we all share. My mother, my father, and I. So my mother was Al-Mu'minah, and my father and I share the same name. So on that particular trajectory and path, you know, things change over time. So that story, that foundation, you know, we're taught how a thing comes into its existence is shows the criterion and trajectory of that particular life. So born from that particular foundation, we share that name. You know, we shared that name, and as we continue to progress, everyone chose a name that was fitting to the vocation that they were going to do. So my birth story and my naming story are akin. So your name is associated with your nature, either who you are or who you will become. So your vocation, you look through your life, you look through your missions, you look through all of those things. I promise you, your name is tied in with your destiny on the planet. So I believe that if we told our children their birth story, because my birth story is unique, and also the naming story. That sets a foundation in regards to how they are going to be perceived in the world, and they wouldn't have a need to look for outside validation. So the name Knowledge Born Allah came from a rites of passage through a particular set of school, and it represents a systematic look at information, how you receive it. There's a process to take things from knowledge to born. If we dealt in the space of our lessons, we go from knowledge to Pluto. So knowledge is the foundation of all things in existence, and the ninth planet in the solar system is Pluto, 3,680,000,000 miles from the sun, still receiving light, right? So that systematic process of story goes from one place to the next. And I love the clip that you played from Dr. Nichols in regards to the power of storytelling. And who better to tell our story than our mother, right? In Islam, we're taught, do not cut off relations with the wombs that bore you. So my story, the story of my birth, my mother's story, my father's story, I'm walking in the shadows and the steps of what they did before me. They taught in the community. So I'm in the community in the same way, around the same age that they were when they were teaching in the community. So our stories are akin, and I'm thankful to Allah to be able to be here to continue on the legacy of their story akin with my own.
I love how you broke that down and how you said your story started at birth, right? And I believe that all of our stories started there, right? And as you're talking about just the going back to that place where everything started, even though I would say, you know, Allah got already kind of destined your journey for you. However, we do have a free will, and things happen in life to where we can alter our stories, but sometimes altering our stories are still in the works and ways of how God wanted us to align into our purpose, right? Our names have so much weight on it, and if we don't know who we are, if we don't understand those stories of the past and things that happen, it made me think about just like, and maybe you can piggyback off this real quick, just how most of the stories that we read in the Quran or in the Bible were stories. So we're building a deeper connection by listening and reading what someone else has been through, right? So do you mind just elaborating just a little bit about just how even just seeing the connection we as a people have with storytelling based off the stories that we read in the Bible and the Quran?
I think that's a very excellent question because, again, as the birth story is the foundation, we look at the books. The question is asked, who wrote the Holy Quran or Bible? How long ago, right? And then we look at in our lessons, why did Musa have such a hard time civilizing the devil in the year 2000 BC? So when we start looking at that, right, we start looking at how Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom all praises due forever, utilized adages to be able to give us an insight into our condition. So he began to teach the most honorable Elijah Muhammad 3.5 years, right? Day and night. Because he saw, okay, this is useful land. In the midst of everybody else that was going, coming through around, people saw them, they were mesmerized, they were captivated, all of these things. But he saw somebody who recognized him. He recognized him. And he was able to call him by name. I said, and he said, I know who you are. Right? He said, I know who you are. And he said, but who else knows? So he was preparing him in the space of leadership. So when we look at relationship, right, on my platform, when you're on your mother and you were on, I talked about Noah, right? Noah became a personification of God in the physical world. And Noah was perfect in his generation because Noah was the one who was in the most need, right? So God comes to us in the space of those who are in the most need. So God was after us. He was after the black man, woman, and child in America. He saw us. He could have went to anybody else on the planet. But he came to us because we were in the most need. We were buried in the shallow grave. And he used that master grip to raise one up from amongst us. Not somebody foreign that was coming to us, somebody from amongst us. So in that space of being the least likely, and I'm sharing the stories between the parallels between the Holy Quran and Bible, because this is what we find in regards to prophethood. We find the least likely, yet being sent to a people who are in the most need, to be able to use that master's grip, that lion's paw, to raise them up from a dead state. So think about how much force, but also how much care it takes to raise one up from a dead state. It takes a tremendous amount of power, but also a tremendous amount of care because they're dead. So when you grab a hold of them to raise them up from a dead level to a living perpendicular, you have to be careful. You have to be careful. And you have to be prepared for a fight. So this is how I love when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talks about the tribe of Shabazz and that rebellious nature, because you have the fight of your life from somebody who was in a dead state to get them to a space where they can stand. Just stand. They have a benefit and a connection to the dead state that they're in. The body is atrophied. They are level. They laid out. They relish in the space of being dead, right?
Mhm.
And you have to pull them from that dead state to a living perpendicular. So you have the fight of your life, similar to you trying to save someone from drowning. They're fighting you.
Mm.
Death is on the other side of it. So you might have to subdue them in a way, physically, to be able to pull them out of this danger. So that beautiful aspect in regards to what was being shared in Bible and Quran in regards to story is when we look at those who were sent and whom they were sent to, there's a relationship between the messenger and whom is supposed to receive the message.
Mm.
So when the most honorable Elijah Muhammad came to us, we had rejected him. We fought against him. We plotted against him. And I say we as a collective because you still have those, regardless to how many who had hearkened to the words of God and came and cleaned themselves up. There's so many who still despise and reject him to this day. So that relationship between Bible and Quran, the stories are there. They're great stories until you begin to live those stories.
Mm.
So you go from reading about Noah and Job in the Bible to becoming Noah and Job in life, to reading about Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessing be upon him, to walking that path that Muhammad walked amongst the people. He was a trustworthy man. He was a wise man. But then when he said, "Come to this worship of one God," they're like, "Hold on, fam. You messing up the trap money. What you talking about? Man, we be partying over here. We got 360 guys, one for every day of the year on the lunar calendar. You talking about one?" you got a problem, fam. So all of his good work and everything that was trustworthy about him went out the window, and it became a situation where they no longer looked to him as the wise man that he was, right? So people good with you, Sister Angelica, as long as you out there doing the do with them, as soon as you begin to stand, right? When you dead with everybody else, there's no problem. When you stand and you begin to walk and talk, all of a sudden they're like, oh, who she thinks she is, and da 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 da. So that relationship to Bible and Quran shows that indiscriminate to time or its dispensation, that these stories are true, and that our ancestors left these stories to kind of remind us. They were trying to cheat. It was like, look, if they read this, they'll know who their enemies are, and they won't be allowing them amongst them, right? But just like they had to learn, so do we. So that's another thing about story is cyclic, right? So every 25,000, we go through this new cycle, right? So a new cycle where folks have to be retaught and relearn. So thankful in regards to story because they give us, names to utilize. So when we recognize certain behaviors, we can call it by its name.
I love how you broke that down. Woo! Yes, yes. Give us some fire emojis in that fire in those in the comment box, y'all. Cause my brother just went in heavy on the storytelling, relating the stories from the Bible and the Quran. Like, one thing that I always do, when I'm in need of guidance, I always I go to the Quran. I do my thing. I kiss it from front to back, and I just allow Allah to take me to where I need to read today. What's going on in my life? I need to figure something out, right? You know it. Okay. So, like, every time that Allah takes me to something, He takes me to, of course, like everything in the Quran is a story, but He took me to the history of Solomon. And that made me just want to just study him. Like, why did you take me to that, Allah? And me being able to understand my relationship with Allah, and then seeing how He is guiding me through other people's stories in the Quran, right? I was able to use those stories to help me make decisions in life, right? It was something about the history of Solomon that made me think about just me amplifying the grace of God that's within me, right? And I'll have to break it down another time. But it's so much power in storytelling. But I do know that, Brother Knowledge, we kind of been told, we shouldn't tell everybody our business, right? We need to keep things to ourselves. Or it is some type of fear behind telling our stories. Like, what if someone says this? What if they judge me? Like, a lot of the times, we don't even know that we're not just hindering ourselves, or we're not just hindering ourselves, but we are stopping the process of helping someone by not sharing our story because of the fear that we have of sharing our story based off what other people may think, right? So that brings me to my next question. If you guys have any question, please put it in a comment box below. So what fears or barriers do you believe we face in speaking our own truth?
If y'all don't give my sister an award, okay, for the best questions in the universe, okay? I was talking with a dear mother sister of mine about this yesterday. Miss Jeanette, her and her husband Malcolm celebrated 27 years of union together.
Yes.
And And she is a educator. She is an educator on so many levels, and they work with young couples to keep them together, to prepare them for marriage, to prepare them for covenant, and also just to prepare them for life. She is a true human resource. And I was speaking to her about the training system, indoctrination system that we call the education system. And I said to her, one of the reasons for some of the violence on the planet, particularly amongst the youth, is the classroom environment. The classroom environment. We know who was in the classroom who couldn't read out loud, who had difficulty with articulating themselves verbally. So it led to a set of behaviors to where they would assert themselves physically. We know who wasn't able to ask questions at home. They didn't ask questions in the school. They were waiting for somebody else to be the first one. Anybody have any questions, right? The teacher is there hearkening unto the students because the students and the teacher produce the teaching together. So they're still in the modality of learning, but it's not presented like that. It's presented in an authoritative fashion. So there's an apprehension. There's an apprehension to question, right? And if you couple that with the home and you're not able to ask the questions at home, if mother is the first teacher, what are you going to ask the teacher? Questions, right? In the space of your curiosity. But if you stifle that inclination towards wanting to critically think and analyze the world around you by your God, right? By your God, your mother, your father, you're asking them questions. Who are you going to get your questions answered from? We got these little devices. They're asking Siri instead of asking God. You understand? They're asking Google instead of asking God. Your God parents, your mother and your father, your guidance and your counselor, right, are there to help guide you and counsel you along your path. So these things spill over into the classroom and they see another adult who doesn't have time for their question. So they act out. They act out at home and they act out in the schools. So you get a bunch of children who are curious and have a thirst for knowledge that is not being quenched. So now, in the space of dissatisfaction, either you born God or made devil, right? So the fear and apprehension that comes along with sharing your story, you think you don't want to appear vulnerable. I promise you, your story, as unique as it is to you and your experience, someone of like mind will hear your story, right? Uh, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was in the cave, and the angel Jibril came to him and said, Ikra bismi rabbika ala. Read in the name of your Lord 3 times. And while he was saying that, he knew that Muhammad was not a reader. He knew he wasn't a reader. So why would he waste his time coming to somebody who couldn't read? And the first thing he was commanded to do was read. But he was putting the words and the speech of Allah in his chest. So as it was in his heart, it would be in his head. So he was embracing him in that space. So he gave him the story in the way that he would understand. Read, right? Some folks would say recite, depending on your translation, right? So he's telling him to speak these words of Allah to the people, right? Then he begins to give him the science of the cognitive and physical development of man who created you from a cloud, right? So that point of reference that exists in the mind, that spark of divine intelligence. You're someone's mother, you see the light go on from that beautiful young warrior that you have. You see that spark, right? And then somewhere in that cognitive development, it becomes arrested in that environment and the light goes dim. I was a 5-year-old child, going to class. I was prepared at home for kindergarten through the 5th grade by the time I went to kindergarten. Education was serious business at home. So I'm there. I came to school. I got my briefcases there, Angelica. You understand what I'm saying? I'm there with my kufi on, my bow tie. But it's business.
Yeah.
I was writing cursive in kindergarten. So I come to class and I see a bunch of kids playing with dirt and crayons and all this other stuff going. I'm like, what is this? What is this? So I began to look around, and every single day I was doing battle with teachers that lived in my neighborhood. I was doing battle with teachers who taught my siblings before me.
Mm.
So how long is that young black mind going to be in that environment before either you born God or you make devil? So I was in trouble in school, Sister Angelica, because that environment of going there in the name of Allah, in that divine being space was not embraced by people who lived in my neighborhood. These were somebody's mothers that lived in my neighborhood. They wasn't foreigners to me. But they saw that spark and they didn't embrace it. They rejected it. They began to mark out my papers wrong and told me I had to write like everybody else wrote it in class.
Mm.
When they tested me in the class, I was on the 4th grade level. They kept me in kindergarten, right? So the Most High Elijah Muhammad said, "We are people of sport and play." They wanted me to be a person of sport and play in the class in calamity because they can deal with calamity, but they couldn't deal with intelligence.
Mm.
So I could see how these young people are sitting in the class. These young black minds, they're bored and they're restless. So in that space, they're going to be rebellious. They're going to rebel. So that voice begins strong and confident and powerful, and then we see it begin to devolve into a space that's hardly recognizable. So that spark that was once there, that light, is now in the triple state of darkness again. So we find ourselves fighting and killing one another because that spark that we're looking to get back to, seeking to be heard, seeking to be seen, seeking to be validated, seeking to be honored, is not embraced. And it stems from those environments that I spoke of childhood. And these folks are now a changed age, but there's still those scared children who can ask questions and couldn't articulate themselves out loud.
Mm. That made me like really think about just how important it is that even in the video that I played with Miss Nichols, how and I believe you can relate. Like it was so much life in listening to our mother or grandmothers talk about things that they went through. It's like it's this type of it's something about the power of imagination. And when you're able to close your eyes and just imagine, and then that person, that your mother or your grandmother telling you the stories and things that they went through, you're able to build an empathetic connection with it because you start to feel it. You start to understand it. Like, wow, you've been through that. You've been through this. Like, I done said it so many times. Like, I didn't know anything about the transatlantic slave trade. I didn't know nothing about it until I joined the nation. But when I joined the nation and found out about it, and then they told me the stories of what our people went through. I felt it. And then because I felt it, I had more of an empathetic, I believe more of an empathetic being within myself to understand why our people are the way they are now. Because it's that ingrain of that genetic, that DNA of trauma that we've been through. And we wonder why our people are the way they are. So it's those histories, it's those going back and tapping into those stories, listening to your grandma's story about things they went through and stuff, and then actually sitting and listening and just closing your eyes and just and envisioning it where you feel and you understand, right? So it's so deep. But as you were talking, you spoke on vulnerability, like being vulnerable. And a lot of the times, our young children, because we've been shut down, and it's also something I read in a book, self-analysis. I got it from the Church of Scientology. It's about something about interruption. Like, if you were interrupted when you were younger all the time, it kind of closed you off. It kind of stopped you from wanting to speak or wanting to say stuff. And I realized and I noticed that when I was younger, at times I didn't feel like I was able to express myself because it was either, girl, what you talking about? I ain't trying to hear that right now. Go find you something to do. So you get to that state to where you don't want to speak. You don't want to say nothing. But it's so important that we allow our youth and the younger children today, and just in general, to speak, because it's so much life and um, so much in our young people's voices, right? But this takes me to my next question for you, because I love how you talked about that vulnerability, right? And how that's important too for us to get over that fear of wanting to tell our story, right? So, what role does vulnerability play in us effectively telling our stories?
Hmm. It allows you to connect authentically and genuinely with your audience, your internal audience and your external audience. Your internal audience has to agree and give life and light and credence for the external audience. What do I mean with that? You ever heard somebody tell you about something and they don't think they believe what they're talking about? They're telling you something like, yeah, I'm saying, I got a little something I'm working on. They're not even making eye contact with you, sister
Mm.
Angelica. They just like, yeah, I'm saying, I'm saying. You're like, what are you saying? Like, I can't even hear you. You want them to be able to connect with you and speak with you boldly and confidently, right? So the training programs of the nation allow you to undergo a process where you see the model behavior of what you want to embody. You see the young men and the young women. Assalamu alaikum, sir. Assalamu alaikum, ma'am. Welcome, blah, blah, blah. You're like, oh my goodness. You're like, wait a minute. You're like, how old are you? Oh, 8 years old, sir. Sir, you're hearing sir and ma'am. And you see somebody, presenting themselves with
Mhm.
that bright light, right? They're there. You see the drill teams, right? I always share the junior FOI and the drill team, the young MGT and the drill team. And I'm like, look at this. Look at this. Like it's something in that space where you like, oh, hope is not lost.
Mm.
Hope is not lost, right? So in that space of vulnerability, that means that you are making yourself open. And in that space of being open, you connect with people. Now, that environment that I spoke about, the 12-step program. The 12-step program. The Nation of Islam is a 12-step program, right? We know about the 12-step program that exists out in the public. Everybody in that environment knows what it's like to be on day zero, right? And then everybody knows what it's like to be on day one. So the 12-step program, that kind of environment is designed that you could come there at your lowest of the low,
Mm.
right? What's the adage in the nation? You could come as you are, but you can't stay
Mm-hmm.
as you are, right? You can come as you are, right? You can come in whatever state of existence that you're in, but you can't stay as you are. Nobody gonna rough you up and force you to be somebody. You're going to be changed through observation and participation.
Mm.
You're going to be changed in that kind of way. Because initially, we like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know about all that, Shane. What you talking about, Shane? Like, you know what I'm saying? So from the observation, you're gonna go from this to this, to this, to this, to let me go do my research.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he speak that way? Why does she speak that way? Why everybody got this gear on? Oh man, you see them in them suits and all that stuff. They're looking sharp. Oh, you see the sisters in the whole thing. Like it looks. Again, it's there. It's designed for your observation, right? Because we're very critical of one another from observation.
Mm-hmm.
So that ability to be able to connect from that vulnerable space, it puts you in the space of authenticity to be able to connect with your audience and everybody, and you'll find out that you're not the only person that's going through that space. You
Mm.
wasn't the only one with that apprehension when you came to this space. You wasn't the only person that came to that meeting that was like, what kind of thing is going on? Like what's happening here? People standing up and uh, indicting themselves, right? So, you went to church and they was like, well, who's here for the first time? They're like, you understand
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It starts off in that environment, and then after that, it becomes something like the people are there. They're clapping for you. They're like, "Oh man," So in that space of vulnerability, being open to be able to express yourself gives you the creative license from within yourself in sharing your story, and then outwardly to share your story. On Duna's Radio, 80% of the people who came there, it was their first time ever being interviewed. 80%. So we've been around for 9 years, over
Yes.
3,400 episodes and counting. So people come on that days from that day zero to day one. And I promise by the end of the interview, they're like, oh man, I thought I was going to, I didn't know. I was so nervous. Oh, this was fun. When can we do another one? Literally, that's
Mm.
one of those situations where the environment is welcome and it's warm and it's powerful, where you can mine through and share some of the most impactful stories ever, and somebody can hear it and be sparked by that. So the observation and participation. So seeing something or hearing something and now doing something,
Mm.
participation, right? So both of these things. So that design in mind in regards to that day zero effect and that day one effect is meeting people at their level, meeting them on the ground level, right? Meeting them on the ground floor and being able to demonstrate the kind of care that I was talking about with raising somebody from a dead level to a
Mm.
living perpendicular. The power, the patience, the loving kindness, the forgiveness, the awareness, the understanding that it takes to raise a body, right? But learning over time how to raise one from the dead and not be harmed in the space of the fray, right? So that takes an example. You have to be able to see one, right? And then participate. So again, at every level, we have observation and participation. So that space of vulnerability, if you saw it righteously, you would do it righteously. So again, finding a way to connecting with your audience through your story, through whatever your trial, your tribulation, but also your celebration. You understand what I'm saying? We do a good job with the trials and the tribulation, but the celebration, we be like, I don't want to be boastful. I ain't proud. Blah blah blah. No, people need to see celebration too. They need to see you happy. You know, need to see you smiling. That's infectious. Also, they're attracted to that. They're like, oh my goodness! Every time I see you, you just lit up. Like, wow. You know, they're gonna ask questions. You see what I'm saying? They're gonna ask questions like, what are you doing in your life when I see you? This is what it is. It's not like you putting on a front or a facade. You are operating from that space of gratitude.
Yes.
And people can tell because you can't fake sincerity and authenticity. So vulnerability in that space of positivity, not just negativity, positivity, emits a charge and a spark that's infectious and contagious, and people will know you by the fruit that you bear.
Mm. Break it down, my brother. Knowledge born alive. Okay, you guys, listen. I need some more fire emojis in the comment section, y'all. Come on now. My brother is bringing the heat. We bringing the heat, okay? This is such a powerful conversation. This is a conversation that was well overdue and needed, just in regards to just seeing how many people are now waking up to their truth, and your truth is you speaking your truth and you coming out here being bold enough to share your story, right? And if you are enjoying this episode just as well as we are, I am, please, please, please show your support by texting the word donate to 937-313-2466. And if you are enjoying all of the broadcasts here on CTGV Network, please show your support as well. Information to donate will be shown on your screen below. I love you all. Now let's get back to today's episode. Speak your truth. Impact of storytelling with my brother Knowledge Born Allah. So we are near the end. However, I do got a few questions to ask before we end today's show, right? Because you've been giving us the heat, brother, and I love the way you've been breaking it down, right? You broke down that vulnerability, right? You broke down how we want to, we be in that testimony all the time. We be thinking so much about the testimony, but when it's time to celebrate your story, right? We don't look at it like that. Your story should be a celebration because you got through it. You went through it, right? And you made it through. So my next question for you is, why is it so important that we learn to embrace and love our story? Brace in and love our healing journey. Brace in and love the testimonies and trials that we've been through in life, so we can be able to better express and tell others about our stories.
Excellent question. Embracing your journey. I mean, you have one existence. There's so many stories of different time periods in your life, but it's one life, right? It's one life, and it's life everlasting. It's not uh, birth, life, death. It's life everlasting, right? It's life everlasting. If you make an impact on the planet, it's forever. It's forever. The people who sat together and they were writing these different stories, these were all separate books, and we know them as one volume called the Bible. If they would have said, I don't know if I'm worthy enough to tell my story,
Mm.
we wouldn't have Bible. We wouldn't have Quran,
Mm.
right? If the most honorable Elijah Muhammad with a third grade education would have said, yo, fam, I don't know if I'm qualified enough, son, to be writing no books, we would not have Message to the Black Man. We would not have Fall of America. We would not have How to Eat to Live, Volume 1 and 2. And then all of the books of the people who are the laborers and believers of the nation after they saw proof of concept in regards to those books, and they began to write those books. They wrote their own books. You understand what I'm saying? We wouldn't have a Dr. Weston Muhammad and the Alatim with their books. We wouldn't have a student minister, Nuri Muhammad, and his books. They saw It's something that sparked the divine space of intelligence within them, and they wrote those books. So they had to read some books to write some books, right? They had to read some books, write those books. So the power of embracing your whole journey and beginning to share that story, somebody's going to be sparked by that story. The Bible and the Quran have sparked so many books. Whether you like them or you don't like them. Them
Mm-hmm.
folks wrote those books. They read something or they heard something and they begin to write, right? So they followed that first commandment that was revealed to Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, in the cave. Ikra, read. So that read caused them to recite. So in that space of beginning to be able to recite, they begin to convey from their creator these adages that became necessary to implement in their life. So from that space of embracing your journey and sharing your story, your testament becomes a testimony for someone else to be able to make it through, right? So that process of embracing the total parts of you and sharing those aspects. We show the. I see y'all with the selfies. Them selfies be dope. You understand? But if you said, okay, this is how many pictures it took for me to get to this one, I think it'd be a little different. If you got, okay, I got one picture, you're like, all right, or it just looked pristine all the time. But if you share, it took me 17 times to get this picture, they're like, oh, I thought it was just me. Well, how did you finally get it? Now that becomes a discussion that you can have in regards to whatever the angles, the lighting, all of those things that are associated with the finished product. They could say the Bible is basic instructions before leaving Earth, right? So from you going from that lower state of being back to that divine state of the God being. So you was crawling around on the dust of the ground, going up and down in the earth, seeking who you should devour, to being able to stand upright and operate from that space or that mind of God. So in that space of embracing your journey and sharing your journey, you are helping people identify aspects and things in them that they need to be able to correct, rectify, and change as well. So now they'll look to you. So again, that's a space for immortality. People are going to begin to share those stories forever. Once they hear something, they heard Dr. Nichols, if y'all listen to her story, all of the trials and tribulations that she went through, she shares them to be able to connect and say, okay, I was here, now I'm here. I was here. I was Noah in the vineyard where my refuge was them grapes. You understand? And now out of that space, I went to be the one who would make the ark that would save the people. So that space of sharing a story shows as or serves as a growth chart to chart your developmental space, whether it's emotionally, physically, mentally, or spiritually, or all of the life, and provide a spark for future generations to glean from and continue on in their laudable good work.
My brother. Woo, break it down. We need to hear y'all stories, okay? Stop holding back because you don't know if your story may save someone's life, right? It wasn't, and I love how you said, like, what if the messenger, you know, said he wasn't going to tell us his story? We wouldn't have the books that we have, right? The things that he'd been through, the things that he went through to study, right? We wouldn't have those stories and books that we have now to help us be who we are. So it's so much power in storytelling, so much life in storytelling. So I believe that we all should take the time out to really just think about those things in life that we went through, that we've been through, that may be able to help someone now. My main thing on here is healing is a journey, but you should not have to heal alone, right? Understanding that it was me listening to other people's healing journey, other people's stories, that made me and helped me out on my journey, right? I was binging off of Queen Afua, The Messenger on How to Eat to Live. I was listening to Dr. Joe Dispenza, like listening to all these people's story and how they were able to basically change their reality, just with their thoughts and the way they was eating and things in that matter, helped me be who I am today. So I'm so grateful for all of those people, that was bold enough to share their stories and things that they've been through in order to help me be the person that I am, right? So praise be to Allah, you guys. We done hit our hour mark, y'all. But that don't mean nothing. My brother gonna come back. We're gonna have to touch back on this, because this ain't no this is an everlasting topic that needs to be talked about, right? Because we need more of our people to share their stories, right? So, Brother Nala, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today to discuss this well-needed topic. Speak your truth, the impact of storytelling. I would also like to thank my amazing audience and Healing Tribe for joining us today. I pray that this episode was informative, valuable, and most importantly, healing to you all. Also, be sure to share, like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming episodes on any of your favorite podcast station, CTG Broadcast on YouTube, and Healing with Angelica on Facebook and YouTube to help spread the light of healing to others in need. Also, if you are ready to start your healing journey and don't know where to start, Healing with Angelica is here to assist. Get started on your healing journey today with my one-on-one The Healing Journey program by texting the word READY to 937-313-2466. With that, you will get a free 15-minute discovery call included with that, and also a free The Healing Journey checklist to also get you started. So also be sure to join the Healing Tribe. We have our Healing Tribe merch going on here. We have different colors, sizes, and different types of merch you guys can embark on. So be sure to check us out. You can look into the merch or purchase some by texting the word tribe to 937-313-2466. Also, you guys, my new ebook is still out and thriving and is now available for purchase directly from me or on Amazon. If you are ready to learn how to reconnect with yourself and God, get your copy today by texting the word thrive to 937-313-2466. Also, you guys, listen, there's a lot going on here, okay? I have another event coming up here. I'm about to say October. Look, I'm trying to hurry up and rush the month off. Golly. September 28th, 2024 from 5 to 7 p.m. Come and join me at my new event, the Relationship Reset, Reconnecting with Self, Manifesting Real Love. This is an event for young women and girls, right? So if you are in the area or close to the area, please come through. Tomorrow is the last day to RSVP. So be sure to RSVP by texting the number that you see on the flyer, right? And also, if you guys would love to contribute to the event, if you're not going, because I'm putting money into it, ain't nothing wrong with it. But if you guys can, give your girl a little hand, I will be grateful for that. So if you guys would like to donate and contribute to this amazing event, please, please, please text the word donate as well to 937-313-2466. All right, we're done talking about me, right? So, Brother Knowledge Born Alive, I got some things I want to show on the screen. So I'll be popping it up on the screen before, while you're speaking with my last question, right? So before we end today's show, my brother, do you have any closing remarks for our audience today?
The world is in need of your story. I'm thankful to Allah for you. You know, you truly are a gift from Allah to the planet, and your healing work and your healing journey is inspiring others from the healing tribe. Because I'm in the healing tribe, fam. Okay, I don't know about y'all. I need to get up in there. Okay, let me get up in there, right? And the laudable works and the gifts that Allah has blessed you with, you are a blessing to so many others, you know, those that you know and those that you have yet to meet. So I pray that Allah continues to bless you with the vigor and the spark and the divine intelligence, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to be able to continue to do your healing work, and you receive reciprocity and increase for that laudable work as well. The world is in need of your story. Write it, sing it, dance it, whatever you need to do, but get that story out to the world. Okay, the world will benefit from what you create today. Future generations, thousands of years from now, will be continue to glean from the laudable stories and the works and the things that you create right now. So, if you want a better future for future generations, you have the talent, the skills, the knowledge, and the things to do that right now. And I can be found right here, Dudenau's radio place where knowledge is born. And salute to Closing the Gap broadcast. We have an audacious goal to tell 1 million Black stories authentically from around the globe. And we have, this mission in sight. So I released 5 ebooks in this ebook series, Voices of the Diaspora. They are available for purchase on my website, or like Sister Angelica said, you can get it from me directly. We have 5 ebooks for $36, dedicated to, again, the celebration of our people. You know, these other things that they utilize to show us to the world condemn us and degrade us. But we have 5 volumes out of 10 that we're currently working on, available for purchase right now. My brother D Banks, he did the artwork, he did the cover work. He took my chicken scratch and gave it form. Okay, it was formless with my chicken scratch, and he gave it some form and some light to be a positive light of attraction. These are our voices. So again, our authentic voices and the power of our stories to continue to spark and have a creative and courageous conversation about our resurrection, rise, and our thrive from the future. So 5 volumes dedicated to entrepreneurship. Volume 1 is dedicated to entrepreneurship, so that divine intelligence spark in your mind. Volume 2 is dedicated to the Black woman, because who are we? Who are we without her? You understand what I'm saying? A nation can rise no higher than its woman. And our mother, our sister, our daughter needs to be returned to her seat of honor and glory. And we should protect that with our life, and also protect that with our healing, and protect that with our own resurrection. Volume 3 and Volume 4 is, dedicated to revolutionary thought and ideology. And 5 is dedicated to science, technology, engineering, art, and math. So all of these multiple ways to tell our story. So 5 volumes. What you know, you apply, understand, live, and empower. So knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, power. So all of these things in divine timing in regards to life. So from that determined idea to its sustainability, what you empower is what you'll be able to sustain. So
Hmm.
everything therein contained. So once again, thank you, my sister Angelica. Beautiful gift from Allah. You are a blessing. And your wonderful audience, and Closing the Gap broadcast, they be having some serious heat. So honest to Dr. Eminence And that beautiful family over there, we listen and we hear everybody's stories that are here, and we're tuned in. My audience tunes in to your broadcast and to this wonderful network. So thankful again for the opportunity. And, by the grace of Allah, I'll be back here again.
Oh my gosh, the pleasure was all mine, brother. Thank you so much. You really, really did your thing today, my brother. He dropped some gems, he dropped some jewels. So I make sure y'all listen. Let me show y'all. Y'all make sure y'all took some notes today, okay? Y'all take y'all notes, okay? Because today my brother went ahead and he shared to us a great story, right? The beautiful impact of storytelling, right? So I love you all. Thank you again, Brother Jonathan, Knowledge Born Alive, for joining me today. I love you all. And I will see you guys soon. And we leave you guys in peace. Assalamu alaikum. Peace, healing, and light.